What if the person you trusted the most turned out to be your biggest mistake? Gerald's life shatters in an instant. One notification on a phone unravels his marriage into a web of lies and betrayal. But the real pain isn't the cheating. The real pain is the cold indifference of the woman he thought was his forever. Where's the line between love and blind trust? And what do you do when the truth becomes unbearable? This is a story of downfall, revenge, and an unexpected chance at a new life. Are you ready to find out how it all ends? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now let's get started. I never thought my marriage would collapse like this, but there was no denying the reality before me. Haley had once seemed like the ideal partner, the woman I had shared almost 7 years of my life with, including 2 as her husband. In the beginning, everything felt natural and easy. She was mesmerizing, sharp-witted, luminous, and effortlessly charismatic. We met at a mutual friend's wedding, and from the moment she spoke, I was hooked. She had a rare gift of making anyone she spoke to feel like the most significant person in the world. Our bond was immediate, and soon we were inseparable. 3 years later, I asked her to marry me, convinced I had found my forever. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the subtle red flags that I chose to overlook. One instance stands out in my memory. We were having dinner one evening when she casually asked, "If you could sleep with any celebrity, who would it be?" Her question caught me off guard, and I laughed. "I don't know. Maybe Jennifer Aniston?" I played along, then flipped the question back on her. Her response, in hindsight, was chilling. "Honestly, I doubt I'd need a celebrity pass. If I wanted someone badly enough, I could probably have them." I chuckled, thinking she was joking. But she wasn't. There was a certainty in her voice that left me unsettled. I should have listened to that instinct. But I didn't. And then, a year into our marriage, she started to change. At first, it was almost imperceptible, so gradual that I dismissed it. She began working late more often, became attached to her phone at odd hours, and seemed distant. I rationalized it, blaming stress from her growing responsibilities at her marketing firm. After all, their client base was expanding. It made sense. But then, the detailed recaps of her day dwindled into single-word answers. One evening, she came home later than usual. "How was work?" I asked as I set her dinner plate down. She barely looked at me. "Busy, same as always." That was it. No anecdotes, no minor frustrations, nothing. This was the same woman who once eagerly shared every office mishap, every detail of her lunch, every trivial grievance. Now, silence. And then, the tenderness vanished. No more lingering kisses, no more quiet, "I love you," before bed. She was there physically, but in every other way, she was absent. One night, as we sat watching TV, I reached for her hand. She recoiled. "Sorry," she muttered, shifting away as though my touch was suddenly unwelcome. I told myself this was temporary, that we'd find our way back to each other. But deep inside, I already knew something was deeply wrong. And soon, my suspicions were confirmed. It was an evening like any other. Haley arrived home exhausted, slipped off her heels, murmured something about a long day, and headed straight to the shower. Her phone rested on the couch beside me. Then, it vibrated. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, except for the name flashing on the screen. William. Another vibration. Curiosity got the better of me. Haley never left her phone lying around unattended. That alone was strange. I wasn't the type to pry, but something felt off. I picked it up and swiped to check the message. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was amazing." My stomach tightened. I read it again, hoping I had misread it. Maybe it was work-related? Maybe William was just a colleague? My mind scrambled for a rational explanation, but the words on the screen remained unchanged. I sat there gripping the phone, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. A few minutes later, the bathroom door creaked open. Haley stepped out, wrapped in a towel, damp hair clinging to her shoulders. The moment she saw the phone in my hand, she froze. Her expression changed instantly, her eyes flickering between me and the screen, calculating her next move. "Gerald, what are you doing?" I looked up, my voice quieter than I expected. "Who's William?" She went pale. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a forced casualness, she ran her fingers through her wet hair and gave a small, incredulous laugh, like I had just accused her of something absurd. "Gerald, seriously? William is just a friend from work." I turned the phone screen toward her. "Really? Because this doesn't sound like a normal work conversation." Her smirk wavered. I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. But instead of admitting the truth, she did what she did best. She deflected. She let out a sharp breath, yanked the phone from my grip, and locked it. "You went through my phone?" she snapped. "That's a huge invasion of privacy." I almost laughed. "Are you actually serious right now?" "You're the one betraying us." Haley let out an exaggerated sigh, her arms crossing over her chest as she rolled her eyes. Any trace of guilt evaporated, replaced by sheer exasperation. "Oh, please, Gerald. You're making this into something bigger than it is." I shoved myself off the couch, my body tense as I paced the room, my anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "Bigger than it is?" I snapped, my tone cutting. "Haley, you've been sneaking around with someone else behind my back." She exhaled loudly, as if my words were nothing but an inconvenience. With a lazy shrug, she sank into the couch as if we were discussing something trivial, like forgetting to take out the trash. "God, you're always so dramatic," she muttered, rubbing her temples. "It's just a bit of fun, Gerald." "Fun?" I stopped mid-step, the weight of her words crashing down on me. My stomach twisted. I had given her my trust, my loyalty. I had envisioned a future, marriage, children, a life together. And now she was dismissing it as a meaningless game? Something inside me cracked. "That's all you have to say?" My voice came out eerily calm, but beneath it, there was ice. She shrugged again, completely unaffected. "Look, it's not like I don't love you. But sometimes a girl needs a little excitement." My hands curled into fists, my nails biting into my palms. "Excitement?" My voice wavered, thick with disbelief. "So what am I? Just the safe, dependable guy you keep around while you chase cheap thrills?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me with mild irritation, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. And in that instant, I understood. She felt nothing. No remorse. No regret. She had already justified it in her mind, that she could do as she pleased, and I would simply accept it. I inhaled sharply, trying to maintain control as I stared at the woman I had once believed was my future. There was no point in arguing. She wasn't going to admit to anything. I needed proof. Hard, undeniable evidence. If she refused to be honest, I would find the truth myself. Confrontation was pointless. She would only keep lying. And so, I made a decision I never thought I would have to make. I hired a private investigator. His name was Kevin, a former cop who had left the force to start his own agency. When we met, I laid everything out, my voice steady even as my world teetered on the edge. Kevin listened without interruption, nodding occasionally, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he leaned back and folded his arms. "She's careless," he said simply. "If she's cheating, we'll know soon enough." There was no sympathy in his voice, only certainty. Now, all I could do was wait, and the waiting was unbearable. Every night, Haley came home later than usual, rattling off the same tired excuses like she was reading from a script. Stayed late at work, grabbed drinks with friends, traffic was bad. I played my part, nodding along, feigning belief. But inside, suspicion gnawed at me, every nerve in my body screaming that she was lying. The hardest part? Pretending. Sitting across from her at dinner, making small talk, kissing her goodnight, all while my mind spiraled, tormented by the thought of where she really was, who she was really with. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my stomach twisted in knots. Was she with him now? Sitting across from William in a candlelit restaurant, whispering to him like she used to whisper to me? Was she laughing, making jokes at my expense, telling him how oblivious I was? The thought made my chest tighten with something between fury and heartbreak. I hated this feeling of helplessness, of being trapped in her twisted game while she lived a double life. But I reminded myself, this wouldn't last forever. Kevin was out there, watching, collecting proof. All I had to do was endure it a little longer. 4 days later, my phone rang. Kevin's voice was steady. Too steady. "We've got something. Can you meet me at my office?" A chill crept up my spine. My grip on the phone tightened. My throat felt dry as I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I'll be there in 30. When I arrived, Kevin was already at his desk. In front of him sat a thick manila folder, its edges worn from handling. It looked so unassuming, just paper and photographs, but I knew it held something that would shatter whatever remained of my hope. Kevin gestured to the chair across from him. "Do you want me to tell you?" he asked. "Or do you want to see it for yourself?" My stomach churned. My hands curled into fists. Either way, the truth was waiting. "Tell me," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. Kevin exhaled slowly. "She's cheating, no doubt about it." My entire body went cold. I had known deep down. I had seen the signs. But hearing it confirmed? That final thread of denial snapped. The last sliver of hope dissolved into nothing. Kevin flipped open the folder, revealing a stack of photographs. He slid a few toward me, and I braced myself for what I was about to see. And there she was, Haley, walking into a hotel with him, holding his hand outside a restaurant, their fingers intertwined as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Kissing him. And the man? William. My jaw tightened as I stared at the undeniable truth in front of me. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This wasn't a mistake. This was who she really was. This wasn't a careless blunder made in a moment of weakness. No, it was something far more deliberate. For months, she had met my gaze and fed me lies, slipping back into our home each night as if nothing had shifted, all while secretly constructing a life with another man. Kevin leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable, allowing me time to process the reality before me. My eyes remained locked on the photos, my heartbeat hammering in my chest. There it was, the inescapable truth. No more doubts to wrestle with. No more excuses to shield myself from what I didn't want to see. The evidence was laid bare, harsh and unrelenting. Haley had been living a lie, and I had been the fool who believed it. I couldn't ignore it any longer. That evening, when she strolled in late yet again, following her usual routine, I was waiting. Keys clattered onto the counter, shoes slipped off. A passing glance in my direction before she moved toward the kitchen. "You're still awake?" she muttered. I didn't reply. Instead, I reached for the folder, setting it down with deliberate intent. She halted mid-step. Saying nothing, I flipped it open, spreading the photos out for her to see in their entirety. She stared at them, unmoving. No shock, no panic, just a momentary hesitation. Then a sigh, not of shame or remorse, but of pure annoyance, as though I had inconvenienced her with my discovery. Crossing her arms, she met my eyes without a flicker of guilt. "All right. Fine. Yeah, I cheated." "So what?" I blinked, convinced I had misheard. "So what?" That was it? No apology, no explanation, no attempt to soften the blow, just a casual admission, as if she were confessing to forgetting an errand rather than shattering our marriage. I waited, searching for even the faintest sign of regret, some indication that she cared in the slightest. But instead, she smirked, slow and taunting, her confidence unwavering. "Let's be real, Gerald," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "You'll never do better than me. You were always punching above your weight." Something shifted inside me. It wasn't anger, no explosive rage, no shouting or slammed doors. It was something quieter, sharper, clarity. In an instant, the illusion crumbled. The woman I had loved, fought for, believed in, she had never really existed. And just like that, I felt nothing. No heartbreak, no sadness, just a sense of finality. Rising from my chair, I strode into the bedroom and packed only what I needed. No arguments, no begging, just quiet certainty. Haley didn't move. She didn't ask me to stay. She simply stood there, watching, detached, as though she were witnessing a stranger go about his business. When I reached the door, she finally spoke. "You're seriously leaving over this?" she scoffed. "God, Gerald, stop being so dramatic." I didn't answer. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. With my bag in hand, I walked out without hesitation, without looking back. No parting words, just closure. By morning, I had filed for divorce. No second guessing, no hesitation. Later that day, I returned to gather the rest of my things and moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. When Haley received the divorce papers, her reaction was exactly as I had expected, apathetic, dismissive. She signed them without argument, as if our years together had been nothing more than a passing phase. Weeks passed. Then, unexpectedly, an invitation to my college reunion arrived in my inbox. I nearly ignored it, but something nudged me to go. That's where I saw Riley. She was the same, warm, effortlessly funny, easy to talk to. We hadn't spoken in ages, yet the conversation flowed as if no time had passed. Hours slipped away before her friend leaned in, grinning knowingly. "You do realize Riley had the biggest crush on you back in college, right?" I laughed, shaking my head. "No way." "Oh, absolutely." After everything with Haley, that revelation felt like fate. The next day, I reached out to Riley. She responded instantly. Fast forward a year, and we're together. She looks at me like I'm the only man in the world. As for Haley, she sent me one last text. "I hope you know you'll never find someone like me again." I blocked her, because she was right. I found someone better. This story has come to an end. Life teaches us tough lessons, but each one makes us stronger. This story is a reminder that love should never be a battle for attention and respect. Once trust is broken, it can never truly be restored. Those who truly love you don't betray you or make excuses for their actions. It's important to have the courage to walk away from those who don't value you, because leaving isn't failure. It's a step toward real happiness. Closing one door gives you the chance to open another, where you are truly appreciated, respected, and loved. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. You never see it coming. One day, everything feels normal. Morning coffee, shared laughter, the quiet comfort of someone always being there. And then, in a single breath, she says, "I'm not happy anymore." Just like that, the foundation cracks. You fight, you hold on. You try to rekindle a flame that's already turned to ashes. But then, one day, it hits you. Sometimes the only way to win is to walk away. This is a story about love, betrayal, and the unexpected freedom that comes when you finally let go. Are you ready to see how it ends? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. I never saw it coming. For nearly 12 years, Lillian and I had built a life together, woven from the threads of routine and unspoken understanding. Our world was built on the quiet comfort of shared spaces, the seamless rhythm of two lives intertwined. At least, that was what I had believed. Then, one evening, after we had finished dinner, she turned to me with an expression I couldn't decipher. "I'm not happy anymore," she said, her voice steady but subdued. My fork paused in midair. A startled laugh escaped before I could stop it. "What do you mean?" I asked, pushing my plate aside. She sighed, her gaze fixed on her hands. "I don't know. I just feel different. Different." The words settled uneasily between us, offering no clarity, only a growing sense of unease. I leaned in, searching her face for something, anything, that might anchor me in this sudden storm. "Is it something I did? Are you feeling overwhelmed?" I asked, my voice quieter now, edged with uncertainty. Her eyes drifted away. "I'm not sure. I just need space." A hollow weight formed in my chest. I had heard those words before, spoken by friends on the precipice of a breakup. It was never just space, it was the first step toward an ending. But I refused to believe that. I convinced myself this was temporary, something fleeting, a phase that would pass if I just held on tight enough. So instead of arguing, I asked, "What can I do?" "I just need time," she murmured. And in that moment, the ground beneath us shifted. I couldn't accept that this was the beginning of the end. There had to be a reason, something I could fix, a missing piece I had overlooked. So, I fought. I planned romantic evenings, left handwritten notes in places she'd find them, surprised her with flowers, and made her favorite meals from scratch. I asked about her day with a newfound attentiveness, listening as if the right response could mend whatever had cracked between us. I even took time off work, believing that maybe I had been too absent, too distracted to notice her slipping away. But no matter how much effort I poured into us, the distance between us remained unchanged. She smiled, but it never quite reached her eyes. She let me hold her hand, but her fingers no longer curled around mine as they once had. "When we kissed," she responded, but her mind was elsewhere. And then, slowly, the signs became undeniable. She checked her phone more often, angling the screen away from me. When I asked if she was okay, her sigh carried the exhaustion of someone tired of pretending. Even the words "I love you" felt strained, as if she were forcing herself to say them. One night, I poured everything into an evening just for us. Soft candlelight, music playing low, a home-cooked meal made with care. I sat across from her, waiting for a spark, for some sign of recognition in her eyes. She barely touched her food, idly stirring her fork through the plate. Then, without meeting my gaze, she whispered, "You don't have to do all this." I set my fork down. "I want to." She inhaled deeply, as though the weight of something unseen pressed down on her. "Andrew, I told you. I need space." I stared at her, feeling something fracture deep within me. Space from what? From me? She didn't answer, and in that silence, I understood everything. That night, I lay beside her in bed, staring at the ceiling while she slept with her back turned to me. It felt as though I was lying next to a stranger. I had done everything I could, poured every ounce of myself into keeping us from falling apart. But if she wasn't willing to fight for us, why was I the only one trying? So, I stopped. I stopped sending midday texts, stopped checking in, stopped planning little surprises. I still loved her, but I refused to beg for something that should have been freely given. And then, something unexpected happened, she noticed. At first, it was subtle. She started texting me during the day. "Where are you?" A question she hadn't asked in ages. She began calling me at work, just to check in. When I got home, she was there, watching as I walked in, as if expecting me to say something first. One night, I went into the kitchen for a drink, and she stood by the counter, her gaze following me. "You've been distant lately," she said, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. I took a slow sip of water before replying, "I'm giving you the space you asked for." For the first time in a long while, I saw something shift in her expression, uncertainty, maybe even fear. This wasn't the reaction she had anticipated. At first, she pretended it didn't affect her. She convinced herself I was sulking, trying to make a point. But as the days passed, she grew restless. She started trying. She suggested watching our favorite shows again. She lingered close when I moved through the house. One evening, she came home with my favorite takeout, something she hadn't done in months. And then, one night, as I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, she hesitated before sitting beside me. "Do you still love me?" Her voice barely carried through the space between us, fragile and uncertain. I turned toward her, my face impassive. "Why ask me that now?" My tone was measured, distant, unreadable. She hesitated, clearly taken aback. I feel like we're growing apart," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. A quiet, humorless chuckle escaped me. "You're the one who wanted space. I'm only giving you what you asked for." And then I saw it, the flicker of regret in her expression. She had expected resistance, a fight, some grand declaration of my unwavering devotion. She had assumed I would chase after her, that I would hold on no matter how far she pulled away. But there was something else lurking in her regret, something deeper, something unspoken. One evening, she left her phone on the counter before heading to the shower. It buzzed once, then again. I hadn't intended to look. That wasn't the kind of person I was. But then I saw the message. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" My pulse quickened. My hands remained still at my sides, unwilling to reach for the device, unwilling to confirm what I already understood. I stood frozen, barely breathing. Everything suddenly fell into place. She hadn't needed distance, she had needed freedom. She had wanted the security of me waiting in the wings while she explored something, or someone else. And now, sensing my detachment, she was scrambling to pull me back into her orbit. But it was too late. The moment those words flashed across her screen, something inside me shifted. The illusion shattered. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" That was all it took to break whatever fragile thread had still tethered me to her. I hadn't gone looking for the truth. It had simply appeared before me, undeniable. My heartbeat steadied. No anger, no confrontation. Just a calm, eerie clarity, as though I had unknowingly been assembling a puzzle and had just placed the final piece. I set the phone back down and walked away. When she emerged from the bathroom, toweling her hair, she had no idea that everything had changed. She smiled softly as she passed me, as if we were still the same couple, still living the same life. The sight of it nearly made me laugh. For the next few days, I remained in the house. Not because I was uncertain, not because I was hesitating, but because I was preparing. I met with a lawyer. I set everything in motion. And as I did, something remarkable happened. I stopped caring. I no longer felt the need to check in with her, to seek her out, to gauge her moods. I no longer wondered what she was thinking. I no longer craved her attention. I didn't avoid her to punish her. She had simply ceased to matter. The weight I had been carrying for weeks lifted, leaving behind only a sense of lightness. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. I was finished. She noticed. Her eyes lingered on me longer. She studied me in a way she hadn't in months. But it didn't matter anymore. I saw the realization creep into her, the slow understanding that she had miscalculated, that she had overplayed her hand, that she had lost me in a way she had never imagined possible. Then, inevitably, the moment arrived. One evening I stood in our bedroom, methodically packing a suitcase. Each motion was deliberate. folding clothes, gathering necessities. There was no rush, no fury, just quiet certainty. She appeared in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. "What are you doing?" Her voice was small, uncertain. I didn't look up. Leaving. Her breath hitched. For how long? I zipped the suitcase closed and turned to face her, for good. Her eyes widened, blinking rapidly, as if struggling to make sense of my words. "Andrew, don't do this." A hollow chuckle escaped me. "I didn't do this, Lillian." "You did." Panic flickered across her features. "I don't understand." I tilted my head slightly. I saw the message. She went rigid, her entire body stiffening. "What?" My gaze remained steady. "On your phone, the one you left unlocked. I miss you. When can I see you again?" The color drained from her face. Her lips parted, reaching for an excuse, a lie, anything to rewrite what had already been revealed. "Andrew, I lifted a hand, cutting her off. "Don't. It doesn't matter anymore." I grabbed my suitcase and stepped past her. She followed, her footsteps quickening with desperation. "Wait. Where are you going?" "I told you, I'm leaving." She stood motionless, as if the air had been knocked from her lungs. Her expression collapsed, her eyes pleading, filled with an unspoken desperation. I don't want this to end," she murmured, her voice barely audible. My fingers hovered near the doorknob, my whole body rigid. Slowly, I turned to look at her one last time. "We didn't break, Lillian. You let go first. Now it's my turn." Her tears spilled over as she reached for me, her trembling fingers gripping my arm. "Please, I don't want to lose you." I held her gaze, really seeing her, the woman who had once been my world, the one who made me believe in forever, only to discard it when she assumed I would always remain. I exhaled deeply. "You already have." And then I stepped out. I didn't hesitate. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for her to chase after me. When the door clicked shut behind me, I heard her sobs, but for the first time in a long while, they didn't shake me. They didn't matter. I was free. By morning, I had filed for divorce. I found a modest apartment across town, not luxurious, but quiet. A fresh start. The next few days blurred into a cycle of packing, paperwork, and leaving that chapter behind. Lillian didn't resist. Maybe she assumed I wasn't serious. Maybe she believed I'd change my mind. But I didn't. For months, I focused on rebuilding. I buried myself in work, spent hours at the gym, and rekindled old passions I had long neglected. Eventually, I started dating again. At first, it felt strange, sitting across from someone new, learning their stories, but it was also liberating. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. She kept the house. I didn't care. It was just a building, a shell of a life I no longer wanted. I had already left it behind in every way that mattered. Half a year passed before an unexpected knock echoed through my apartment. I had been tying my sneakers, getting ready for the gym, when the sound interrupted the silence. I opened the door and froze. Lillian stood before me, a shadow of the woman I had once known. Her hair was hastily pulled back, dark circles clung beneath her eyes, and she wrapped her arms around herself as though she was barely holding together. "Hey," she murmured. I let out a slow breath, already bracing for what was coming. "Hey." Her gaze darted around my apartment, taking in the space, the life I had rebuilt without her. "Can I come in?" I hesitated for only a moment before stepping aside. She moved cautiously, her eyes scanning everything with an unease that made something deep in my chest tighten. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. "Why are you here, Lillian?" She swallowed hard, staring at the floor before forcing herself to meet my eyes. I needed to see you. I needed to talk." I waited, silent. She inhaled shakily. "I made a mistake, Andrew." I tilted my head slightly, listening but saying nothing. I thought I needed something else, something different, but none of it worked. The guy I was seeing, it fell apart. I tried dating again, but nothing lasted. She stepped closer, her voice raw with regret, and then I realized it was always you. I ran a hand down my face, exhaling slowly. Lillian, please, she interrupted, her voice trembling. Just listen. I was selfish. I destroyed us. But I see it now. I see what I lost. I studied her for a long moment, letting her words sink in. Then, at last, I shook my head. I've moved on, Lillian. She flinched like I had struck her. Andrew, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. No, I said firmly, though my tone remained calm. You walked away. And for months, I tore myself apart wondering what I did wrong. But I understand now. I wasn't the problem. You were. Tears streamed down her face. I miss you, she choked out. I sighed and stepped toward the door. You should go. She stood there motionless. Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, to beg, but I had nothing left to give her. At last, she nodded. She wiped at her eyes before walking past me, pausing just for a second in the doorway. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't respond. Then she was gone, vanishing from my life for good. I closed the door, locked it, and released a long, steady breath. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't known in far too long, peace. Because I had won. This story has come to an end. Sometimes love doesn't die suddenly. It fades slowly, turning into routine, into desperate attempts to save something already lost. We hold on to people who have long let us go in their hearts. But here's the truth. If you have to fight for attention, for affection, for a place in someone's life, maybe you're simply not where you're meant to be. Real love doesn't require proof or sacrifice. It either exists or it doesn't. And the most valuable lesson you can learn from this is to respect yourself enough to walk away when you're no longer valued. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you? Imagine your life is set. Steady job, home, wife, a predictable routine. You believe you're in control until the first crack appears. At first, it's just small things. Late nights, hushed calls, subtle changes. You push the doubts aside, convincing yourself it's nothing. But one night you follow her, and what you find shatters everything. The neon lights flicker, the air is thick with smoke and betrayal. Then, she sees you. Her lips curl into a smirk as she utters the words that seal your fate. That's my husband. Someone get rid of him. Pain, ruin, a chase for survival. And one question. How far will you go for revenge? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. For years, my life unfolded in a familiar rhythm, a steady job, a structured routine, and a marriage I assumed was built on trust and understanding. But over time, the stability began to wane. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly became strained, and warmth was replaced with cold indifference. The woman I had once considered my closest ally now seemed distant, almost adversarial. I tried to convince myself it was just a passing rough patch, the kind every couple faces. Still, something about her subtle shifts in behavior gnawed at me. The secrecy, the unexplained absences, the way her habits had changed. It all hinted at something deeper. The night I decided to trail her after work shattered every illusion I had desperately clung to. The evening air hung heavy as I followed her sleek car, the very one I had purchased, while she funneled her modest paycheck from the supermarket into an ever-growing collection of clothes and cosmetics. She made an abrupt stop at a convenience store, vanishing inside only to reappear moments later with a small overnight bag. But it wasn't just the bag that caught my attention. It was her transformation. A miniskirt clung tightly to her hips, and a sheer blouse, absent of any undergarment, left little to the imagination. It wasn't just revealing, it was deliberate. I remained in pursuit as she drove beyond the city limits, eventually pulling into the parking lot of a seedy biker bar, the kind with a reputation for danger. The way she sauntered toward the entrance, exchanging smirks and knowing glances with the men outside, made it clear. She wasn't a stranger here. I slipped inside unnoticed, taking a seat at the bar just as she draped herself across the lap of a hulking man with a presence that dominated the room. They were lost in each other until her gaze flicked toward me. For a brief moment, I thought she might ignore me, pretend I wasn't there. But then she spoke, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. "That's my husband. Someone get rid of him before he makes a scene." I turned on my heel, intending to leave, but the bikers moved faster. A rough hand seized my arm, and instinct kicked in. I shoved him aside, narrowly dodging a fist from another. I had nearly reached the door when a towering brute stepped into my path. His sheer size was daunting, but I braced myself and lunged forward. It was pointless. He caught me with ease, throwing me down the stairs as if I weighed nothing. Pain exploded through my body as I hit the ground. Before I could react, he was on me, fists hammering into my ribs, my face, my gut, each blow more brutal than the last. His taunts, dripping with mockery, stung almost as much as his fists. And above it all, I could hear my wife laughing. When I regained consciousness, pain radiated from every inch of my body. My ribs felt fractured, and one of my eyes was sealed shut with dried blood. I remained motionless in the shadows, listening to the fading echoes of their laughter, hoping no one noticed I was awake. Every movement sent fresh agony rippling through me, but I had no choice. Inch by inch, I dragged myself toward my truck, each step a battle against pain. I reached it, unlocked the door, and winced as the dome light flared, illuminating the night. Fear clawed at my chest, but I forced myself inside, biting down against the sharp protest of my broken ribs. The engine roared to life, cutting through the silence. My eyes locked onto her car, parked neatly among the rows of motorcycles. A reckless thought took hold, curling my fingers around the steering wheel. Did I have it in me? Adrenaline drowned out hesitation. I threw the truck into gear and slammed on the accelerator. The impact sent her car skidding sideways into the bikes, the crunch of metal shattering the night. Furious shouts erupted from inside the bar. Without thinking, I reversed, then veered sharply to finish what I started, plowing through the remaining motorcycles, reducing them to twisted wreckage that blocked the entrance. As I sped away, dust swirled in my rearview mirror. My body was screaming in agony, but survival took precedence. I needed medical attention, but the nearest hospital was out of the question. That would be the first place they'd check. Instead, I set my course for an Impact Medical 50 miles away. Then, in the mirror, I saw them. Headlights appeared. No sirens, just the steady, menacing growl of engines. The bikers were coming. The sound of chains clanging against my truck sent a jolt of panic through me. I swerved hard, forcing two riders off the road, their bikes skidding into a ditch. Another closed in on my right. A sudden jerk of the wheel sent him tumbling across the asphalt. A brief flicker of satisfaction flared inside me, but it was short-lived. More were still in pursuit. Desperation took hold. I slammed the brakes, bracing for impact. The sickening thud confirmed I'd made contact. Then, silence. As I hit the gas again, their headlights disappeared from view. Was it over? Reaching Centerville, I recalled an old acquaintance with an abandoned ranch just outside town. I veered onto the gravel road, pulling my truck behind a barn where it would stay hidden. Leaving my wallet and ID in the cab, I placed the keys atop the rear wheel and forced myself to move. Every step was a fresh wave of torture, but I needed to put distance between myself and the vehicle. A mile down the road, my body finally gave out. With the last of my strength, I whispered into my phone, weaving a desperate tale of abduction and escape. Eventually, someone found me. I heard voices questioning me as I struggled to maintain my fabricated story. Then came the paramedics, the sting of IVs, the blur of movement and sterile light. The painkillers dulled the edges of my suffering as the impact medical loomed ahead, marking the uncertain beginning of whatever came next. At the hospital, I stuck to my story, despite the police pressing me for details. They mentioned a series of strange motorcycle accidents in the area, clearly fishing for a connection, but I feigned ignorance, portraying myself as nothing more than an unfortunate victim. The nurse informed me that my injuries were serious enough to require an overnight stay. I nodded in acknowledgement, hoping the chaos I'd left in my wake would grant me enough time to figure out my next move. As soon as I pieced together what Nora had been up to, I didn't hesitate. The moment I was able to, I called my brother, Tyrone. He was my go-to in times of crisis, calm, dependable, and unwaveringly loyal. I gave him the rundown and asked him to find a crew that could discreetly move my belongings. He didn't ask for specifics, just assured me that he'd handle it. True to his word, within a few hours, Tyrone had a team clearing my things out of the house. My next call was to Matthew, an old friend in real estate. "Matthew, I need to sell my house immediately," I said, cutting straight to the chase. As expected, he remained unshaken even as I explained the mess involving Nora and her new boyfriend. Without hesitation, he promised to handle everything, including any interference from Nora. "She's just a tenant now," I reminded him. "She has no legal claim over the house unless a judge says otherwise." By evening, Tyrone checked in with an update. My essentials were safely stored, and to make things more inconvenient for Nora, the movers had cleared out extra items. "The house is empty," he confirmed. "We might need to change the locks, though." Predictably, Nora wasn't going to take this lying down. When Matthew arrived to assess the property and plant a "for sale" sign in the yard, she lost it. "What's going on?" she demanded. Matthew remained composed, calmly explaining that he was managing the rental now and presenting her with a lease agreement. She refused to sign it, which only meant the clock had started ticking on her eviction. Meanwhile, I was busy rebuilding. I secured a small apartment, furnished it only with essentials, and ensured Nora no longer had access to my finances. She still had her job, but she wouldn't be living off me anymore. When I finally reached out to Nora, it wasn't out of remorse, it was strategic. Her tone was a mixture of anger and desperation. "Why are you doing this?" she pleaded. "You're my husband. You're supposed to take care of me." I didn't sugarcoat my response. "And you were supposed to be faithful," I shot back. "Instead, you stood by while your boyfriend attacked me. Did you really think I'd come back after that?" She scrambled for excuses, but I wasn't interested. "The house is being sold. Either pay rent or move out." "I don't care which," I said before hanging up. The days that followed were quiet. I threw myself into work, kept my head down, and waited for whatever came next. Nora's messages kept coming, each one confirming what I already knew. She wasn't remorseful about her actions, just upset about the consequences. I had accepted that eventually her new friends would come looking for me. But I wasn't afraid. I had prepared myself, both mentally and physically, to stand my ground. Nora had made her decisions, and I had made mine. Now, it was just a matter of endurance. The house had sustained some damage, which meant Nora would need renter's insurance. One of the officers smirked as he commented, "Couldn't have happened to a better person." I had spoken with her the day before. She still refused to sign the lease. "I'll drop by with an officer to remind her she's responsible for maintaining the property once repairs are done," he added. I doubted the officer had anything to do with her troubles. "Not my doing," he confirmed. "A couple of bikers, probably friends of her new guy, have been keeping an eye on me. I let one of them pass by Nora's place yesterday. It seemed like the damage had been a case of mistaken identity. The police were investigating and had some pointed questions for her boyfriend, Ryan." The officer chuckled again, just as my phone rang. An unknown number. I glanced at the screen. Nora. I answered, already bracing for whatever nonsense she had in store. What do you want? She came in swinging. Why are you trying to get the cops involved? Why would I vandalize a house I'm trying to sell? I countered. Do you even listen to yourself? Her aggression caught me off guard, but I quickly adjusted. I expected better, Nora. Now you're accusing me of trashing my own property? There was silence on the other end, then the faint sound of her swallowing hard. Buck, I'm sorry. I thought maybe you did it out of anger. But after the officers left, I asked Ryan. He admitted some of his guys might have been looking for payback, since you wrecked a few of their bikes and put some of them in the hospital. I exhaled sharply, exasperated. Are you serious? I was the one unconscious in a hospital bed. I was the one who got jumped. Her voice wavered. Ryan and his guys think you were the one who ran them off the road. They just wanted to make sure you didn't go to the cops. You didn't have to hurt anyone. I scoffed. Listen to yourself. I was the one who got ambushed. I was the one who got knocked out. When I came to, your boyfriend's lackeys were already circling, ready to finish the job. You stood off to the side, egging them on, and now, after his crew wrecked your place, you have the nerve to pin this on me? Keep popping those pills. You'll be selling yourself to the highest bidder soon enough. She erupted in fury, her voice sharp with accusation, trying to shift the blame onto me. Enough. Listen. I cut her off before she could spiral further. Matthew's coming over today to assess the damage for the insurance claim. The policy only covers the house as a rental, not as a personal residence. If you want coverage, you'll need renter's insurance. This isn't just some rental. This is our home. Her voice wavered, like she couldn't quite grasp what was happening. I let out a slow breath. Which part of betraying me and throwing away our marriage don't you get? My tone was steady, void of emotion. This is the life you chose. I was willing to stand by you, to support you. But you had an affair. You stood there and watched him beat me, and you did nothing. You wanted this. Every consequence, every bit of suffering. This is on you. I ended the call before she could say another word. I tried to push the conversation from my mind and focus on the day ahead, but the tension settled deep in my bones, and my face still stung from wounds that had yet to fully heal. Later, after work, I noticed a biker trailing me. He wasn't even trying to be subtle, hanging back just a few cars away. I tested him with sharp turns through Centerville, but he stayed locked on. That's when I decided to act. I slammed my brakes and swung my truck sideways, blocking the road. He had nowhere to run. Stepping out, I pulled my gun just enough to make my point clear. Hey man, he started, trying to sound casual. I don't know what your deal is. I'm just heading home. Save it, I interrupted. You've been on my tail since I left work. You're 40 miles from where you belong. No more warnings. You and your crew made a serious mistake backing Kodiak in that ambush. Some of your guys paid the price. Some are still recovering. And last night, you thought you were hitting my place, but you trashed his girlfriend's house instead. I stepped in closer, watching understanding creep into his expression. And now, here you are, alone, practically daring me to end you. How stupid can you be? One pull of this trigger, and you'll be lying in the street, bleeding out, fully aware you're dying. No one will come to save you. His confidence wavered, but he stayed silent. I chambered around, making sure he heard it. I warned you. If I have to defend myself, I will. And honestly, I doubt anyone would miss you. Hell, I might even get a commendation for it. I scanned the street, taking another step forward. See anyone coming? The neighbors heard your bike, sure, but they're not going to step in. No sirens, no cops. Either they don't know, or they don't care. His eyes flicked around, nerves creeping in. I rotated the revolver's cylinder twice, just enough to make him flinch, then raised my gun and fired, shattering his headlight. Turn that piece of junk around and get lost. It's getting dark, and without a headlight, you're a target. If I decide to follow you, well, Let's just say I doubt you'd make it through the night." He nodded frantically, spun his bike, and peeled away down the road. I waited until his taillight disappeared before heading toward downtown, staying alert for any of his crew. When I reached my apartment, I parked behind the building, swapped the spent round for a fresh one, and stepped inside. No more playing nice. The night was quiet, but I wasn't naive enough to think it would stay that way. This story has come to an end. Betrayal by those closest to us cuts deeper than any blow, but revenge is not a cure. It's just another step into the abyss. Sometimes, the hardest thing isn't to strike back, but to walk away with your dignity intact. True strength lies not in destruction, but in the ability to start over without looking back. Fate has a way of setting things right. Everyone answers for their actions. The key is to never let someone else's betrayal break your soul. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.